Empress HFY's claw-tipped hand hovered above the shimmering hollow parchment, the treaty's binding seal pulsing with the iridescent light of Narethian oath forging. The grand chamber of the Dominion's apex citadel thrummed with restrained tension, high counselors shifting in their tiered thrones, their multifaceted eyes glinting under the vaulted crystal dome. Beyond the armored viewports, the fuel lanes flickered like contested veins, pirate raiders from the Krell expanse probing the borders her fleets had held for cycles. "I seal this pact," HFY declared, her voice a resonant command that silenced the murmurs. Her talon pressed down, igniting the document in a cascade of binding fractals. "The Narethian Dominion secures the Hyperion lanes. Terran vessels will escort our convoys, their fusion drives bolstering our patrols against the Expanse horde. War averted. For now." High Counselor Makesh rose from his seat, his elongated crest flaring in subtle challenge, robes whispering against the polished obsidian floor. "Sovereign Empress, the lanes are yours by right of conquest." Yet the Council's edict demands more. The Terran envoy, Captain Lena Kade, must be bound as your ceremonial consort, publicly wed to symbolize unbreakable alliance. Refusal invites unrest, traditionalists rally, borders fracture, the Expanse strikes. HFY's primary eyes narrowed, her secondary lids flickering once, a rare tell of inner calculation. The Dominion teetered. Conservative houses whispered of her childless line. Makesh's faction, ever the Vipers in Velvet, backed Prince Tenori as pure-blood alternative. Duty chained her, repudiate the Terran, and civil blades would turn outward, inviting Krell annihilation. Accept, and stability held, however galling the dilution of Narethian purity. "The edict stands," she intoned, her posture unyielding as the citadel spires. "The marriage proceeds at dawn. Transmit coordinates to the Terran shuttle." Kesh's crest dipped in deference, but his gaze lingered, probing for fracture. The chamber exhaled, counselors exchanging data glances via neural links, already spinning narratives for their houses. Hours later, as the twin suns crested the citadel's peaks, HFY stood in the sanctum of unions, her ceremonial mantle flowing like liquid shadow. The air hummed with incense drones, their scents calibrated to soothe Narethian pheromones. Flanked by honor guards, their plasma lances humming low, she awaited the human. Terrans, soft-skinned mammals, unscaled, breathers of oxygen-thick air. Reports dismissed them as fleeting opportunists, their ships clever but fragile, their diplomats verbose. What value in binding one to the throne that birthed stars? The sanctum doors parted with a hydraulic sigh. Captain Lena Kade entered alone, her form compact yet poised in a sleek Terran uniform. Charcoal weave-hugging limbs that moved with economical grace. No entourage, no ostentation. Her skin gleamed pale under the lights, dark hair bound in a practical coil, eyes a piercing hazel that met HFY's without flinching. A data slate cradled in one hand, she halted precisely at the ritual demarcation line. "Empress HFY," Lena said, her voice steady through the translator orb hovering between them, inflections carrying a warmth that bypassed protocol. "Captain Lena Kade, Terran Diplomatic Corps, reporting as mandated. I bring greetings from the United Terran Alliance and our commitment to the lanes." HFY assessed her. No tremor, no averted gaze. Humans aged swiftly, yet this one projected quiet endurance. "Captain Kade, you stand as military attaché and consort. The ceremony binds us publicly. Privately, you advise on Terran tactics. Do you comprehend the weight?" Lena nodded, a subtle human gesture HFY had studied. Affirmation without dominance. "Fully, Empress. My role is to serve the Alliance. Whatever secures the lanes." The rite unfolded with mechanical precision, oaths exchanged via neural imprints, rings of fused neutronium sliding onto scaled and unscaled fingers. HFY felt the bond's subtle tug, a legal tether, not emotional. Yet as Lena recited her vows in flawless Narethi, learned en route, the translator noted with surprise, something stirred. Precision amid novelty. Council observers logged the union via floating recorders, and Keisha's proxy among them, crest subtly vibrating discontent. As the sanctum cleared, HFY dismissed the guards with a gesture. Alone with her new spouse, she tested the waters. "Captain, your credentials list attaché duties, yet Terran records hint at field service. Reveal your truth." Lena's expression remained even, though a faint muscle twitch betrayed calculation. "Former combat disposal expert, Empress. Neutralized ordnance in 3 border skirmishes. High-risk extractions. But that's past. Now I adapt to your protocols." HFY's crest lifted fractionally. Disposal work demanded steady nerves under duress, a trait Narathians reserved for elites. Adaptability noted. Prove it. The Grand Convocation approaches. Houses convene to ratify lane patrols. Ceremonial security protocol falls to you. Oversee drone calibrations, guard rotations, threat scans. Privately delegated. Bail and traditionalists feast on weakness. Lena's eyes sharpened, accepting without protest. Understood. Access to schematics? HFY extended a neural link. Data flooding Lena's slate, labyrinthine citadel grids, pheromone jamming fields, plasma redundancies. Commence.
Dawn briefing in auxiliary wing.
As Lena departed, slate already alight with scrolling diagnostics, HFY permitted a private concession. The human moved with purpose, not pomp. A first crack in protocol's armor. By midday, murmurs infiltrated the halls. Traditionalist envoys clustered in alcoves, their data feeds buzzing. A mammal on the throne line? Succession tainted, one hissed. Crest ablaze. Mikesh's voice carried from a tribunal feed. The Empress courts instability. Prince Tenori offers purity. HFY intercepted the feeds in her strategy vault, secondary eyes parsing faction webs. Unrest simmered. A spark could ignite house revolts. Lanes be damned. She summoned her seneschal. Isolate the auxiliary wing. Captain Kadei and I retreat there, officially for consort acclamation. Control the reaction. No audiences until convocation. The seneschal bowed, dispatching lockdown drones. HFY proceeded to the wing, a fortified annex of vaulted chambers and holo simulators. Lena was already immersed, 3 holoscreens active, 1 calibrating drone swarms, another modeling guard paths, the third cross-referencing Krell Raider patterns from Terran Intel. Her fingers danced across interfaces, human multitasking evident. No fatigue signals, no pauses for pheromone recalibration as Nerathians required. Status, HFY commanded, entering. Lena glanced up, undistracted. Drones retuned for 98% overlap. Your grids had blind arcs at junction 7B. Fixed via phased emitters. Guards rotated to predictive beats. Krell favor feints from hyperlane shadows. Added Terran pattern. They cluster before strikes. HFY approached, scanning the sim. The adjustments were elegant. Novel linkages between Nerethian fields and human evasion math. Her own tacticians labored cycles on such. Lena bridged them in hours. You learned our systems overnight? Pattern recognition, Empress? Humans juggle variables intuitively. Your tech's robust, precision engineering we lack, but it shines brighter with adaptive layers. No boast, just fact. HFY felt a pragmatic reluctance thaw. This Terran was no fragile envoy. Yet pride held. She was Empress, not supplicant. Adequate. Simulate full breach. Lena triggered the holo. Krell phantoms swarmed. Drones intercepted seamlessly. Guards flanked with preternatural timing. Success in 92% runs. HFY's crest warmed involuntarily. Approval pheromone she suppressed. Traditionalist drones breached the outer feeds, denouncing the scaled soft union as succession poison. Kesh petitioned for audience, veiled threats in legalese. HFY silenced them with the override pulse. Here, in isolation, duty overrode repudiation. Lena worked on offering a hydration flask, human gesture, unasked. Yours too, Empress? Endurance runs long on focus. HFY accepted. The cool touch bridging scales and skin. Protocol cracked further, not dismissal, but potential equal. The Dominion endured because she chose this, human ingenuity weaving into Nerethian steel. Outside, factions schemed. Within, alliance forged anew. As night cycled in, Lena layered a final protocol. Improvised relays from lane boys predicting raider waves via stellar drift patterns Nerethians overlooked. Collaborative edge, she murmured. HFY watched. Authority intact, reluctance yielding to respect. The war stopped not by ink alone, but by this quiet competence. Losing the Dominion? Never an option. High Counselor Mkesh rose from his dais, his iridescent scales flaring under the chamber's vaulted lumens, voice resonant with the weight of ancestral decree. Empress HFY, the Dominion's bloodlines demand purity and succession. Prince Tenori stands ready, proven in the Void Wars, untainted by foreign consortia. Let tradition guide us from this Terran entanglement. Murmurs rippled through the assembled Valists, their frilled crests pulsing in synchronized approval, eyes flicking toward the human at HFY's flank. HFY's throne hummed faintly beneath her, its neural links feeding her the chamber's biometric undercurrents. Elevated heart rates among the traditionalists. She let the silence stretch, her own crest held rigid, betraying no fracture in her resolve. Captain Lena Kade stood motionless beside her, uniform crisp, gaze forward as if the debate were a distant stellar drift. The human's composure irked and intrigued in equal measure. No fidget, no telltale flush. "Counselor Makash," HFY intoned at last, her voice a silken blade. "Tradition serves the Dominion, not the reverse. The alliance with Terra stabilizes our flanks against the Krell incursions. Prince Tenori's valor is noted, but rejected. The pact endures." The chamber erupted in controlled chaos, ballasts invoking archaic edicts, holographic lineages projecting Tenori's noble braid against Lena's sparse Terran dossier. Mikesh pressed, his claws tapping rhythmically on his console. "This, consort, proves unfit, Majesty. Her presence invites fracture." HFY silenced them with a raised talon, sensing Lena's subtle shift. Not tension, but assessment, like a predator cataloging threats. The debate dragged into the cycle's zenith, forcing concessions. A public inspection of the Grand Armory tomorrow, ceremonial and open, to test the alliance's optics. HFY conceded nothing further, her authority a bulwark. Dawn's aurora bled through the armory's crystal spires as the procession assembled. HFY led, Lena at her precise 2 paces offset, Valists and guards flanking in rigid formation. The ceremonial combor loomed at the vault's heart, a relic obelisk etched with Dominion ciphers, meant to symbolize unbroken command relays across the Empire's lanes. Protocol demanded a joint activation. HFY's imperial glyph, Lena's allied counterseal. Cameras hummed, broadcasting to every tributary world. Lena knelt first, her fingers dancing over the boar's access lattice with unhurried grace. HFY watched from her podium, noting the human's multitasking, scanning subroutines on her wrist pad while murmuring adjustments to a hovering drone. A faint whine pierced the air, the boar's core flickered erratically, glyphs warping into static. Gasps echoed. Mikesh's voice cut through. Sabotage, proof of her ill omen. But Lena didn't flinch. She popped the secondary panel with a tool from her belt, improvised, not issued, exposing a nest of tampered filaments. Her hands blurred, isolating the overload crystal, rerouting power via a jury-rigged bypass from the bore's own coolant veins. Sweat beaded her brow, yet her voice stayed even, addressing HFY directly. "Microfracture in the quantum weave, Empress. Someone etched a feedback loop, subtle, meant to cascade during activation. Neutralized." The bore hummed to life, glyphs aligning pure. The chamber fell silent, ballasts, crests drooping in unison. HFY's pulse quickened beneath her regal poise. Narithian techmasters trained cycles for such precision. This human, in moments, had dissected it like breathing. Kesh's scales paled, his eyes narrowing on Lena as if re-evaluating a shadow into substance. Whispers spread. Impossible for a soft-skinned envoy. HFY stepped forward, voice carrying. "Banishment is for the guilty, Counselor, not the capable. Initiate an internal audit of court security. Full spectrum, no exemptions." Her gaze met Lena's, a flicker of shared gravity passing unspoken. The alliance held, not by decree alone, but by this quiet mastery. In the seclusion of her private scriptorium that eve, HFY summoned Lena under guise of protocol review. Tomes of Dominion rights floated in null graph fields, their pages whispering as the human traced marginalia with a stylus. "Your disassembly," HFY said, crest subtly relaxing, "exceeded expectations. Explain the bypass logic." Lena glanced up, humble deflection in her tone. "Pattern from old Terran field repairs, Empress. Coolant veins mirror our vascular redundancies. Logical overlap." They bent over the projections together, Lena spotting inconsistencies in succession clauses that Narithian jurists had glossed for cycles. Proximity-bred reliance, HFY found herself deferring to the human's cross-domain links, her own political web sharpening under the influence. The reception terrace gleamed under twin moons, a diplomatic veil for tributary envoys. HFY circulated with Lena in tow, their dialogue a low weave of feigned pleasantries and coded alerts. Laughter echoed from crystal flutes, but tension coiled. Mikesh's faction loomed in shadowed alcoves, Tenori's silhouette a pointed absence. Then, a shadow detached. A cloaked figure lunged from the balustrade, vibro dagger arcing toward HFY's back. Gasps shattered the air. Lena moved first, instinct, not protocol, shoving HFY aside while tackling the assailant mid-leap. They crashed against the stone, Lena pinning the figure's arm, wrenching the blade free with a knee to the joint. Guards swarmed, but the human held position, reading the intruder's micro-twitches. Not alone. Sent markers, 2 more. Her warning synced with HFY's command. Safeguard detail now. Lena integrates. The Empress rose, unscathed, her voice iron. Blades clashed. Lena flanked her, directing drones to seal exits while parrying a second attacker's strike. The assailants fell, crests marked with faction sigils. Optics teetered. Scandal could doom the alliance. Yet HFY stood firm amid the chaos, Lena bloodied but steady at her side. Visible detail from henceforth, she decreed publicly, arm gesturing to include the human. Captain Cade proves her station. Mikesh watched from the perimeter, his composure cracking, research slates already pinging his aides on Terran resilience. Whispers turned to awe. The soft-skinned endured, adapted, bonded in crisis. In the quiet aftermath, as medics sealed wounds, HFY drew Lena aside.
You read intent where my guards scanned voids. Lena wiped her brow, eyes meeting hers without presumption.
We learned patterns young, Empress. Your formations gave the angles. Mutual reliance solidified. Proprieties shell thinning to reveal alliance forged in fire. Not politics alone, but trust. The Dominion's stability hung on this, and HFY would not yield it. HFY's crest flared briefly under the medic lights, a ripple of silver blue across her scales betraying the adrenaline's fade. She straightened, voice steady as crystal. Captain Cade, your vigilance honors the accord. Withdraw to your quarters. The marshal's drill awaits at dawn. Prove pattern from fortune. Lena inclined her head, sweat-dampened hair clinging to her brow, no trace of fatigue in her posture. Understood, Empress. I'll be ready. She turned, stride even, vanishing into the shadowed corridor without a backward glance. Alone in the sanctum's hush, HFY sealed the chamber with a gesture, holographic veils shimmering into place. Her primary hands danced over the command node, logging the Combor sabotage from cycles prior, the insidious probe that had wormed through outer relays, nearly compromising fleet vectors until the humans' offhand reroute. Coincidental, she inscribed, scales steadying to imperial gold. Terran input aligns with luck, not design. Yet doubt coiled, twin to the blade's gleam she'd glimpsed tonight. Marshal Voron. She pulsed via encrypted link. Initiate covert evaluation. Containment breach drill full sentry complement. Isolate the Terran's efficacy. Discreetly. Dawn's aurora bled through the palace spires as HFY attuned a veiled feed. Her secondary hand stippled. The drill yard sprawled below. Simulated hull breach, acrid smoke billowing, sentries in rigid phalanxes, Narethi precision, drilled to rote perfection. Chaos erupted on cue. Holographic assailants swarming, vents hissing toxin sims, comms fracturing under jammer pulses. Lena arrived unescorted, uniform crisp, with a nod. Standard containment? Her voice carried clear over the din, eyes scanning the fray. Voron's frill twitched, dismissive. Affirm. Contain or fail. She didn't hesitate. Sentries, regroup alpha, flank left, seal vents 2 through 6. Beta, high ground, suppress fire, staggered. Relay 1, boost signal on my mark. 2, orders snapped out, layering overrides, reallocating drones mid-stride while she darted to a jammed panel, jury-rigging a bypass with a scavenged probe. Sentries pivoted seamlessly under her cadence, no barked frenzy, just fluid redirection toxin neutralized in cycles. Voron's scales flushed violet, crest rigid. He keyed private. Empress, the human, improvises. Our protocols optimized over eons, yet she threads gaps we fortify blindly. HFY's mandibles clicked softly. A private thrill uncoiling. Not rote. Creation amid crisis. By midday, the leak slithered through court webs. High Counselor Makesh's antechamber buzzed as HFY convened the inner ring, her dais elevated, regalia gleaming. Hollow screens flickered with illicit feeds. Shadowed agitators decrying lineage poisoned by soft-shelled consort. Prince Tenori's sigil subtle in the frames, his traditionalist backers inflaming bizarre murmurs to counsel ire. The blade strikes because weakness invites it, one murmured. Makesh rose, his scales etched with age's patina. Empress Tenori's partisans voice what honor demands. Interspecies bonds fracture the ancestor weave. Your union courts dominion unravel. Before HFY countered, Elder Legalist Thravis unrolled a brittle scroll projection, clauses glowing like venom barbs. Ancestor code, third binding. Consorts of scale and blood alone preserve the throne's purity. Alien seed voids succession, empowers rivals eternal. Gasps rippled, even loyalists shifted. HFY's gaze pinned him, voice thunder-veiled in silk. The code endures because we adapt it, Thravis, not shatter under rumor. Convene the tribunal review. Full audit, no repeal without verdict. Her crest held high, unyielding, though inwardly the fracture line spidered. Tenori's shadow lengthened, stability teetering on this human thread. Dusk deepened to void black as HFY claimed the outer patrol. Protocol be damned, trust demanded proximity. Lena matched her pace through the labyrinthine vaults, no complaint at the extended shift, eyes tracing shadows where scanners blanked. Your sentries hold formation well, Empress, but the angles here, blind from the east vent. Observed. HFY's primaries gripped her scepter dagger, secondary alert. A whisper hiss cut the air, a blade arcing from gloom, nano-edged, aimed true for her throat. Lena surged, body twisting in economy of motion, forearm deflecting the strike with a crack of bone. The assailant tumbled, hooded, clutching a wristcom pulsing data bursts, cell signatures blooming on her scanner. Network hit, Lena growled, pinning him as guards swarmed. 3 more inbound, Vector 12. Alarms wailed, the vault lit with stunner fire. Captured, the wretch spat codes under duress, unveiling a nest. Makesh-aligned saboteurs, Tenori's coin threading the graft. Calm bore their prelude. In the strategy vault, HFY's commands flowed like forged steel. Purge the cells, Voron, seal all implicated, from sub-clerks to council aides. No execution sans tribunal. Confinement absolute. Her gaze shifted to Lena standing vigilant amid the holomaps, unmarked by the melee. Captain, you join my personal strike roster. Effective immediate. Lena paused, brow arching faintly. Honor, Empress. But your protocols are tight. I'll learn them faster with guidance. Voron's frill quivered in aftershock.
She commands as if born to our great Empress.
Humans, they see the unseen weave. HFY's scales warmed to amber, propriety's veneer thinning further, not luck. Essential. The court would chafe, Tenori's faction royal at this human elevated so near the throne. But stability demanded boldness now. She kept Lena close, testing their patience. The Dominion's fire reforged an unlikely alloy. HFY's claws clicked against the obsidian council slab as the holographic blockade flared to life before the wartime assembly. Crimson satellite webs choking the Dominion's vital supply lanes like venomous vines. The Krashari Empire strikes without declaration, she intoned, her voice a blade of imperial steel, scales flickering from amber restraint to edged gold. Our granaries dwindle, our fleets starve. Contingency protocols demand alternatives, now. High Counselor Makesh leaned forward, his frilled crest pulsing with calculated outrage, the chamber's vaulted arches echoing the murmurs of assembled warlords and envoys. Empress, the traditional vectors hold strength, divert to the outer rims as in the Third Veil War. This, human consort's presence muddies counsel. His gaze sliced toward Lena Kade, who stood motionless at HFY's flank, her Terran uniform crisp, expression a mask of quiet readiness. Lena did not flinch. Instead, she extended a slender data slate, its projection blooming amid the holograph like an uninvited bloom. With respect, Counselor, the outer rims invite ambush. The Kreshari predicted. But these obsolete charts, cross-referenced with their archived patrol oscillations, her fingers danced across the interface, weaving faded stellar maps with rhythmic patrol loops that no Narathian scanner had queried in cycles. A narrow corridor materialized, threading the blockade's gaps like a needle through scale mail. Their sentinels cycle every 7.3 hours, blind to this relic vector. It's viable. 87% success on first transit. The chamber hushed, crests flattening in disbelief. Kesh's vents hissed. Obsolete charts? Human intuition over Dominion analytics? This is no strategy. It's whimsy, unfit for our bloodlines. HFY's tail coiled tight beneath her throne, the warmth in her scales deepening, not to fury, but to the forge heat of decision. She sees patterns we discarded as dust, HFY thought, the humans calm multitasking a quiet storm. Charts, rhythms, probabilities juggled without strain, where her own analysts faltered in silos. Propriety cracked further. Stability overrode tradition. Captain Cade's corridor merits trial, she declared, rising to full imperial height, her silhouette dominating the projection.
Accusations of over-reliance sting, Makesh, but starvation bites deeper. We deploy the Vanguard convoy at dawn.
Dissent noted. Execution proceeds. Makesh's crest spiked, but he bowed, the traditionalists' whispers coiling like smoke. Before rebuttal could solidify, the chamber doors groaned open to Prince Tenori's fanfare, his armored retinue flooding the tribunal floor in a spectacle of guilt and menace. The prince, broad-scaled and crowned in ancestral thorns, halted before the throne, his voice booming with ceremonial thunder. Empress HFY by the eternal codes. I challenge the treaty's legitimacy. This interspecies bond mocks our succession. The human consort undermines the throne's purity. Witness the blockade as divine rebuke. Gasps rippled. The hologram dimmed under protocol lights as Tenori's challenge invoked the right of legitimacy, transforming council into arena. Heralds unrolled ancient scrolls projecting treaty clauses in glowing script while courtiers pressed forward, eyes gleaming with factional hunger. Makesh's frill bloomed triumphant, aligning seamlessly. The prince speaks for the bloodline, Empress. Prove the Union's worth, or dissolve it amid this crisis. Lena's hand brushed Ashavar's arm, a fleeting anchor, human warmth steady against Narethian chill. Ashavar met Tenori's glare, her spines erect, voice unyielding. The right demands proof of alliance's fruit, Prince. Not dissolution, but demonstration. She gestured sharply, the corridor hologram reigniting brighter. Captain Cade's path threads the impossible. If it succeeds, the treaty stands fortified. Fail, and challenge your claim. The Dominion watches. Tenori's jaws parted in a predatory grin, but his tail tip twitched. Uncertainty? A human's gamble for our fleets. Bold, Empress. Yet the codes permit escalation. He signaled, and his aides unleashed a secondary projection. Simulated failures. Convoys shredded in the corridor's shadows. Spectacle swelled, the tribunal pulsing with chants of blood, line, purity. Through it all, Ashavar held Lena's gaze, a private current amid the storm. Not whimsy, vision. The human's eyes held no arrogance, only the quiet endurance of one who worked crises like routine shifts, adapting without fanfare. Ashavar's core tightened, personal connection threading political steel.
Provisional endorsement, she proclaimed at last, silencing the roar.
The corridor launches under triple oversight. My vanguard, Makesh's auditors, Tenori's observers. Success binds us tighter, failure invites reform. Oversight ensures no over-reliance, pragmatism, not peril.
The assembly bowed, tension coiling but unbroken.
Tenori retreated with a flourish, Makesh's eyes narrowing on Lena like a predator scenting weakness. As the chamber emptied, Ashavar turned to her consort, scales settling to a thoughtful bronze. You weave relics into weapons. Why this path, when our simulators deemed it folly? Lena's shoulders eased, a faint smile cracking her poise. Human resilience, optimism undimmed by the spectacle. Simulators assume static enemies, Empress. Creshery patterns echo old pirate logs I cross-checked en route here. Humans, we hold grudges in archives, spot echoes others file away. She paused, reading Ashavar's subtle crest flare. And your oversight? Smart. Builds trust both ways. Ashavar's vents warmed, propriety's shell thinning to reveal alliance's alloy. She reads us too. No dismissal now. Mutual calibration. Dawn approaches. Rest while you can, Captain. The Dominion tests all. Hours blurred into launch vigil, Ashavar's command spire alive with tactical feeds. The convoy, 3 haulers, escort fangs, slipped into the corridor under cloaks, Lena at an auxiliary console, murmuring adjustments as patrols loomed. Makesh's auditors pinged doubts, Tenori's observers broadcast skepticism to the court nets. Then, triumph. The lead hauler pierced the far side intact, escorts threading flawless granary payloads gleaming in confirmation scans. Cheers erupted across channels, the tribunal feeds erupting in stunned silence. Makesh's frill collapsed, Tenori's broadcast cut mid-snarl. Ashavar exhaled, scales blazing victory gold. Essential, not luck. She summoned Lena to the strategic briefing dais, courtiers parting like mist. Captain, your seat is here now. Patterns recognized, trust provisioned. Brief the next phase. Lena nodded, settling in without flourish, already pulling fresh charts, multitasking feeds, alien protocols, but combined, your fleet's speed, my echoes. We loop them. Her voice carried no boast, just grounded capability, forging respect and shared purpose. Kesh lingered at the edge, crest subdued, murmuring to aides, researched the humans Ashavar caught in his subvocal crassing, to curiosity. Tenori's faction quieted, the spectacle undercut by supply crates docking in the bays below. As projections shifted to counteroffensives, Ashavar felt the shift. Command posture evolving, human ingenuity no longer peripheral but pivotal. Lena's presence, once ceremonial veil, now alloyed core. Duty and connection entwined. The Dominion's fire burned brighter, unorthodox path illuminating stability's true guardians. Yet whispers persisted in the vents. Krashari reinforcements massing, Tenori plotting deeper. Ashavar kept Lena closer still, their alliance the blade to carve victory from blockade's jaws. Explosions bloomed across the southern provincial feeds, crimson fireballs punching through orbital defenses like vengeful stars. Ashavar gripped the edge of her command dais, her mandibles clicking in restrained fury as holographic displays shattered into static-laced chaos. Report, she commanded, her voice a silken lash cutting through the tribunal chamber's rising clamor. High Counselor Makesh surged forward, his robes swirling like storm clouds, multifaceted eyes gleaming with calculated outrage. Rebellion in the Vale provinces, sovereign, timed with Krishari strikecraft breaching the outer rings. Coordinated, precise. They strike at our heart while the blockade bleeds us dry. Murmurs rippled from the conservative bloc, their crests flaring in unison, a scripted wave of indignation that set Ashavar's spines prickling. She silenced them with a raised claw, her gaze locking on the central hololith where red icons swarmed like locusts. Empire-wide crisis unfurled before her, supply lines severed, loyalist garrisons isolated, civilian habdomes cracking under debris fall. Whispers of Tenori's shadow lingered in her mind, but proof eluded her, yet. Mobilize the Second Fleet. Contain the orbitals. No reprisals until we discern the puppeteers. Captain Lena Cade stood at her side, unbidden but ever-present now, her human frame taut as she interfaced a portable analyzer with the dais console. The Terran's fingers danced across the alien glyphs, adapting to Nerithian code with unnatural fluidity, her brow furrowed in that quiet focus Ashavar had come to rely on. Empress, Lena said softly, her voice threading through the din without deference or hesitation. These signatures, false flags. Rebel transponders mimic Krashari modulation, but the entropy patterns don't match. Look here. She spun a subprojection, isolating data streams that twisted like knotted vines. Ashavar leaned in, her breath vents hissing faintly. Lena's insight pierced the fog. The rebel bursts carried proprietary Nerethian encryption layers, buried deep. Layers traceable to inner-court suppliers patronized by Tenori's faction. Pattern recognition, the human called it once, casually as if linking stellar drift to munitions logs were mere habit.
Prince Tenori's backers, Ashavar murmured, her voice low for Lena alone. The Terran nodded, already extrapolating.
Surgical counterstrike, Empress. Hit their command nodes, 3 primary hidden in the provincial undergrid. Drones can sever them without touching the cities. Minimal casualties, maximum disruption. Makesh world, his crest snapping erect. Insanity. The ancient codes demand orbital glassing, vengeance to purify the stain. The chamber erupted. Counselors bayed for blood, their calls echoing ceremonial edicts etched in stone since the Dominion's founding. Ashavar felt the weight of it, the political vice tightening, choose tradition and rally the factions, stray and invite fracture. But Lena's plan gleamed with promise, precise, humane, a blade over a hammer, and in the human's steady gaze, Ashavar saw not ambition but shared resolve. Before she could respond, the air screamed. A cloaked device, assassin's work, sleek and sovereign grade, detonated at the dais' base, shrapnel erupting in a vortex of razor flechettes and plasma bloom. Time fractured. Ashavar's instincts hurled her back, but the blast wave caught her mid-turn, mandibles parting in shock. Lena moved first. The human lunged, body slamming into Ashavar's armored flank, shoving her clear with raw, unyielding force. Shrapnel tore into Lena's side, crimson sprays arcing as she hit the deck, curling protectively over the Empress even as pain twisted her features. Down, Lena gasped, her free hand clamping a sealant patch over the gash, blood slicking her uniform but her eyes fierce.
Silence crashed in the smoke. Ashavar rose, unscathed, her hearts pounding against her ribs.
Guards swarmed, weapons trained on shadows, but the assassin's tool lay inert, its payload expended. Lena groaned, pushing to one knee, staunching her wounds with practiced efficiency. Makesh recovered first, his voice a thunderclap. Treachery. Purge the South. Glass the traitors, every dome, every nest. The codes. No. Ashavar's decree sliced the air, her posture regal, unbowed. She extended a claw to Lena, hauling the human upright with gentle strength, ignoring the court's stunned hisses. Blood mingled on their grips. Nerithian ichor and Terran red, a bond sealed in fire. Execute now. Preserve the innocents. Dismantle the heads. Uproar swelled. The human bleeds our blood, yet you shield her overright? A traditionalist snarled. Makesh's eyes narrowed, calculating the fracture lines. Ashavar faced them, her voice steel-wrapped velvet. She saved your sovereign. Her mind saves our dominion. Arrest Prince Tenori's patrons, High Counselor Veshar, Arms Master Lirak, all traced to this false flag. And Captain Cade, she turned to Lena, who met her gaze with quiet pain and resolve, shrapnel scars already bandaged by her own hand. No tribunal for her deeds this day. The chamber quaked with outrage, crests flaring, claws scraping stone, but none dared countermand. Orders flew from the dais, drone swarms launched, threading southern undergrids like surgical needles. Lena, propped against the console, multitasked through her haze, refining targeting overlays, predicting rebel countermeasures, her voice steady as she murmured adjustments to the fleet admiral. Adaptability incarnate, weaving human intuition into Nerithian arrays. HFY watched, a crack forming in her formal shell. This human, this consort in name, partner in truth, had interposed without thought, bled without falter. Whispers of doubt faded. Here was worth, equal to any crown. My notes stretched into eternity. Hololiths flickered with triumph. Command nodes vaporized, rebel signals collapsing like felled spines. Urban centers stood intact, hab domes humming with spared life. Cheers pierced the chamber, reluctant at first, then fervent. Even Mikesh's crest dipped fractionally, his gaze shifting from Lena with new wariness, not dismissal, but reassessment. HFY stood beside her, claw on Lena's shoulder, a gesture intimate amid the protocol. You trace shadows I could not see, she said softly, for the human's ears amid the resolving feeds, and shield what none else would. Lena winced a smile, wiping blood from her lip. Just doing the job, Empress. Your fleets made it work. We make a good team. The court saw it now. The human, not as novelty, but strategic anchor. Factions murmured of reassessment, Tenori's web unraveling under arrest sweeps. Crisis ebbed, but HFY knew deeper storms brewed. Creshery masses, entrenched rivals. Yet with Lena at her side, the blade sharpened. In the quiet aftermath, as medics fussed over the Terran's wounds, HFY felt the propriety crack further. A personal warmth threading the political weave. This alliance was no longer mandated, it was chosen. HFY's claws tightened on the armrest of her throne, as the holographic display erupted in crimson alerts, foreign armadas coalescing like storm clouds at the Dominion's fringes. Cravath raiders from the outer rims flanked by opportunistic Vexari cruisers, their signatures pulsing with predatory intent. The High Council's chamber thrummed with outrage, Nikesha's multifaceted eyes gleaming as he rose, his voice a resonant whip crack through the translators. Empress, the instability of your union has invited this predation. Seal the Hyperlock's isolation now, or declare total war and purge the vermin before they taste our weakness. She held his gaze, unyielding, the faint sting of her recent shield wound a reminder of choices already made. Medics had only just cleared Lena Kade from the assassin's aftermath, the Terran's arm bandaged but her posture straight as she stood at HFY's flank, eyes scanning the hollow feeds with that unnerving human focus. Propriety demanded HFY dismiss the alien's presence here in this sanctum of Nerithian sovereignty. But the warmth from moments ago lingered, a thread she refused to sever. Total war bleeds the Dominion dry, Lena interjected softly, her voice cutting through the chamber's hiss like a vibroblade. She stepped forward without invitation, fingers dancing across a portable Terran interface that synced seamlessly with the Imperial grid, a multitasking fluency that made the counselors' frills twitch in unease. Their fleets are probes, not invasions. Mobilize a joint task force. Your war forms for the vanguard, my people's skirmishers for the flanks. We enforce a diplomatic blockade, project strength without the pyre of open battle. Mikesh's mandibles clicked in derision. Human whimsy? Your kind scatters like dust in crisis. We Nerithians have held these borders for millennia with iron doctrine. Lena didn't flinch, her expression patient, almost humble, as if debating fleet dispositions were as routine as dawn rations. HFY watched her weave data streams, Cravath patrol patterns cross-referenced with Vexari supply vulnerabilities, alien biologies factored against Dominion plasma yields, all while fielding a subordinate's query on shield harmonics without breaking stride. It was adaptability incarnate, this Terran ease with chaos, turning disparate threads into a tapestry the Council hadn't even conceived. HFY rose then, her war crown casting long shadows across the chamber. God, silence fell like a blade dropping. Captain Cade speaks for the alliance I have forged. Her plan proceeds. War forms deploy under joint command. Nerithian might, wedded to Terran precision. Let the fleets witness our unity, not our fractures. Murmurs rippled, Mikesha's faction exchanging loaded glances, but none dared contradict openly. Political fallout would come, whispers of weakness, petitions from traditionalists, but HFY chose stability over the brittle shell of tradition. Lena met her eyes briefly, a flicker of gratitude there, human warmth piercing the formality. In that shared glance, HFY felt the crack widen. This was no consort's deference, but partnership's quiet steel. Hours blurred into the task force's frantic assembly. Lena orchestrated from the command nexus, her endurance a quiet marvel, 8 cycles without pause, sipping nutrient packs while directing warform calibrations, Terran drone swarms, and diplomatic hails in tandem. HFY observed from the oversight dais, her own advisors faltering under the strain, mandibles drooping, while the human juggled crises, rerouting a faltering hyper-relay mid-transmission, intuiting a Kraviv feint from subtle ion trails that Narethian sensors had glossed over. Patterns shifting, Lena murmured to her, voice steady. They're testing our resolve. Hit the supply nodes with precision strikes, then broadcast terms. The Empress nodded, signaling the order. War forms surged into the void, hulking behemoths of chitin-armored fury, their barrages laced with Terran-guided micromissiles that danced through defenses like whispers. Vexari cruisers buckled under the novel assault, Kravath raiders scattering as blockade enforcers locked into position. Not a slaughter, but a wall of unyielding intent. Holofeeds captured the turning tide. Alien captains aboard the task force exchanging awed clicks, one warform pilot transmitting. The soft skins see what we cannot, their eyes pierce the storm. Back in council, as victory feeds streamed, Mikesh moved to strike. Shadows stirred in the chamber's upper galleries, Tenori's operatives, cloaked in stealth fields, their disruptors humming faintly. HFY sensed it first, a predator's instinct honed by centuries of court intrigue. As Mikesh launched into his veto oration, "This aberration undermines our bloodlines." The assassins decloaked, beams lancing toward the voting dais where Lena stood, collating post-battle reports. Time fractured, HFY lunged, her imperial frame interposing, scales scorching under the disruptor fire. Pain bloomed, fierce and familiar, but she held, claws raking one assailant into oblivion while her guards swarmed the rest. Lena dropped into a crouch beside her, pistol barking with Terran accuracy, dropping the second before it could recharge. The chamber erupted, counselors scrambling. But HFY rose, blood-sheen scales unbowed, voice thundering over the din. "Enough. By sovereign decree, Captain Lena Kade is honored consort under Dominion law, shielded as my own flesh. Her blood mingles with ours in defense. Who stands against this?" Mikesh froze, his faction's momentum shattered. The vote crystallized in the chaos. Ratification, 6, 8, 4, 2. Lena's hand steadied HFY's elbow, a small touch, electric with unspoken bond. Her eyes wide not with fear, but resolve. The human's resilience shone. Wounds from the prior attempt barely mended, yet here she was, reading the room's fracturing loyalties, whispering they'll fold now. You've turned their weapon into your strength. The revised treaty unrolled across the holosphere, clauses etched in iridescent code. Interspecies consorts legitimized, Terran integration into the Imperial Strategic Council formalized. Counselors affixed their seals one by reluctant one, Mikesh's mandibles grinding but yielding under the weight of witnessed unity. HFY stood at the dais's apex, Lena at her side. Not subservient, but equal in the light. "In this hour," HFY proclaimed, her voice carrying the gravitas of unbroken lineage, "I retain sovereign authority as Empress of the Narathian Dominion, yet I name Captain Lena Kade partner in governance and private life. Together we steer through storm and shadow." The chamber bowed, frills flattening in acquiescence. Fleets stood down beyond the blockade. Envoys already hailing terms. Stability returned, not through isolation's cage or war's blaze, but collaborative fire, human ingenuity forging paths Narethian might alone could not tread. In the withdrawing quiet as council dispersed and Lena reviewed stabilization metrics with unflagging focus, HFY felt the final propriety shatter, yielding to profound clarity. She drew the Terran aside, claws gentle on her bandaged arm. "You endure as we fight, see patterns we grind through rote. What my court dismissed as frailty proves the galaxy's hidden edge." Lena smiled faintly, humble as ever. "Just doing the work, Empress. Your war forms turned the tide. We're better together." Yes, she was born to rule, and learned that true power is finding an equal.